You are now live.
Okay, Mark, you got it over there.
I did.
All right. We're moving because we keep losing time, Gary.
Yeah.
We're going to start out with H559, and this is the workers' compensation. You've had all kinds. It's our annual adjust the rate, and the proposal is to go from 1.5 to 1.4 to 1.5. And Commissioner, you want opt?
Sure.
If you want both, whatever works. I guess the question was, there seems to be a pretty hefty balance carried.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, for the record, Michael Harrington, Commissioner to the Department of Labor. Madam Chair and Vice Chair, you should have emails from me in your inbox
Yes.
with some additional data that we also provided Joint Fiscal Office. So I think it's important to recognize that the balance in the fund was there based on a special assessment that was implemented in 2014 and 2015 to collect money for modernizing the workers' comp system. And so we are going through that modernization now. So while it looks like there is a large fund balance, what you don't see in the numbers is that that is meant to cover modernization implementation and 5 years worth of maintenance and operation expenses related to the modernization of the system. And then our program costs us roughly around $2.5 million in workers' comp alone. So we provided additional updated numbers to you and certainly can share these with the rest of the committee. But in FY21, the workers' comp program alone spent $2.4 million to $2,413,223.68. There's a couple of different ancillary programs that also get paid out of workers' comp. So like our workers' compensation investigators and enforcement are not part of the proper workers' comp program. That's an add-on through legislation. And then also there's Project WorkSafe match, as well as some additional funds that go to VOSHA, and as well as, I forget what it's called, but it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics Fatality Census. So it's the work that our Labor Market Information Division does for federal reporting. So those usually come in somewhere under about 500,000 annually, those ancillary services. So we traditionally spend somewhere around 2.5 to 2.8 million dollars, I would say, and that's just back of the napkin. So at the 1.4% that it has been flat for a number of years would bring in $2,338,000. At 1.5, that brings in $2,505,000. It certainly doesn't cover the total of the programs that charge out of that, but I think we tried to limit what the increase would be so that it didn't impact employers too much, and can pay any difference or overage out of the fund balance. But what we are struggling with is the need, and this is what we shared with Representative Feltus and Chair Hooper, is the cost to run the program as well as the modernization. And so the fund covers the modernization, and then because these are collected revenues, they're special fund, we collect them throughout the year, the fund needs to maintain a balance in it of about $3 million, and then we replenish that through the collection over the year. So we can talk more about that if you'd like, but that just gives you some detail on that.
Okay. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have a budget that you can provide to us? Because what I recall from yesterday in our conversation, there's a balance of over $8 million in the fund. The update and modernization piece was $4.4 million. The annual cost of running the program is about $2.5 million-ish. So that's 7, that doesn't quite add up, and then adding the additional assessment. So it doesn't quite,
So now, I've never known a modernization project to hit its target, so we're very wary of that. Right now, the current balance of the fund is $7.8 million, but that doesn't account for the fact that we still have back quarters of charges to that fund that haven't necessarily all been accounted for. So we still have outstanding invoices, bills that come from interdepartment transfers, as well as ADS bills that are typically 2 quarters behind. So when you look at a current fund balance of 7.8, that's how much money is in there, but there's a portion of that will be paid out.
do you have those listed as encumbrances? I mean, that's.
Yes,
so
we have them as obligations, but we don't know what the actual expense will be until they're charged through the accounting.
Did you provide this? I would like to see. I didn't get it.
Well,
I mean,
You said
it was all.
an email to the.
Yeah, so it doesn't have all the encumbrances listed. I mean, we went through the traditional budget process with this in-house. And so, unfortunately, it would take certainly a significant amount of time to go back through all encumbrances using the legacy.
I'm assuming it's in your budget that has been approved.
Correct. So, I mean, we know what the traditional cost of the program
is settled, so.
So we run somewhere around 6 million by the time the fund is all, the year is closed, 6 to 7 million. Traditionally, and I talked with Chad, our CFO, prior to coming here, typically the fund, the rate, and this again is because the modernization is an ongoing project, but we typically come out in the positive year over year. If you look at the past 5 years, at about 500,000 over. But again, that's a moving target because the modernization has its peaks and troughs in terms of cost and expense that gets paid out of that. And it's also to account for ongoing maintenance of the system. So when we talked with House Appropriations, their feeling and their support was that this is going to fund not only the 4.4 million for modernization, but the ongoing, I think it's roughly about $400,000 annually for the next 5 years. And so, yeah, 438,000 over the next 5 years. So again, we're using those funds to also defray the future cost of maintaining.
Okay, so you are putting money into that modernization fund every year.
So the modernization money was collected out of the special assessment in 2014 and 2015.
Yes.
So anything that's in that fund right now is slated for modernization. So when we go forth with our rate, we're not looking at the fund balance because that's slated for modernization. We are looking at what the cost is to run the program and what the rate will bring in. So we expect that a 1.5% rate will get $2.5 million. We expect that to run the program and the ancillary programs, it'll cost us about 2.8 million in total. And so from that perspective, we recognize we're actually going to be underfunded slightly unless the what's known as the self-insured rate, which is kind of a moving target, but we get a 1% on the self-insured. So again, we're not basing it on the fund balance because that is based on modernization, but it also is a rolling number because the funds that are paid into that come in quarterly. So again, we'll collect each quarter.
Okay, so we're looking at Dan's kind of double. He's showing your operating expenses and revenue, and then below that is the fund balance, which has been going up like $1 million a year. But you're saying there is another source, there's something else going into that fund balance.
So there are more charges slated to come out of that, I guess is what I should say. So while the fund balance.
But it keeps increasing, so why is it increasing every year?
So the increase, it's roughly about 300,000 to 500,000, my understanding is, when we look at it year over year. But again, that is because we're also pulling money out and haven't pulled out all the money for modernization yet. Again, if we look at the actual, what the fund brings in, right, it's 2.338 million at a 1.4%. It costs us 2.8 to run the programs. It also, one of the things we are recognizing here, and one concern we have, is that premiums are slated to go down significantly this year, and as well as last year. So
your money will be going
the fewer premiums paid,
okay.
the less 1.4% will get us.
Okay. Same with you.
The other concern I would just, and again, I don't know if the committee has talked about this, if our understanding is if you revert back to the flat fee of 1.4, then it's our understanding that this would also have to go to conference committee. Because you're changing legislation.
You have to go back to the other body.
Yeah.
They could just say yes.
Okay, Sandra Pearson.
So you mentioned that the way that the quirks of the cycle, that there are expenses that have not been pulled out of the fund yet. You said you're a quarterback. Are those only on the downside, or are there also, does that same dynamic play out in terms of money coming in?
I would ask Dirk, part of the issue, I'd ask Dirk, I also recognize Dirk is new to the position. I mean, we do receive.
We wanted to let him have some time.
We do receive revenue on a quarterly basis, but it's based on premiums paid. So it does come in. But we're taking, I couldn't tell you whether there's a standard amount of premiums paid each quarter. And what, I don't have that number in front of me right now. But I do know, talking with our CFO and talking and knowing what we have out there for outstanding bills and obligations, again, I don't have a full accounting of those in front of me, but we do know we have, and I should say outstanding in that we haven't necessarily received all of them yet.
Okay.
So they're for services that haven't necessarily been invoiced to us yet.
Okay, so I guess basically you're saying all of these revenues are fluid, they're a snapshot of today, you've got things that need to be done. I guess the question the committee had was, if you've got a $4 million project and you've got $8.5 million on the bottom line.
So,
But you're saying that bottom line, it's inflated because you got a special assessment in there that for the modernization program, plus it's reflecting any unspent funds.
yeah, so it includes I think it's end up being roughly 6 million-ish, based on projections and numbers that we had going back and forth at the start of this session. It's about 7.8 in the fund right now, according to our office. I'm assuming there are a few $100,000, if not $1 million invoices in total that will hit that fund. But again, it's a rolling fund, so we know what it costs to run the program. We know that the program costs 2.8 plus or minus, and we know what the percentage will get us. And again, that percentage is not an allotment that we receive July 1. That is, those are paid to us quarterly. So the fund will always have to maintain a balance to fund the program.
It's a major outlay.
And the other, anything above the programmatic cost is money that would go to ongoing maintenance support and probably future modernization of the system. So again, the idea and the promise, the commitment made to employers was that you pay this special assessment, it builds up the fund, and those monies paid would go towards.
So the special assessment is ongoing.
No, it was.
No, that's what I thought, yeah. I thought it was like,
Mr. My kids are really like math, and they truly, around the dinner table, they ask for math quizzes, and it sharpened my skills, I would say, trying to do math on the fly. So I just need some help here. If we have somewhere around just shy of $8 million on the balance, you're saying there's maybe $1 million outstanding that is spoken for. So let's say 7 million, and then you have a $4.4 million tech project and another $500,000 for the maintenance. So that's 5 million. So we're at about $2 million.
So the $500,000 for the maintenance was a 5-year ongoing
Each year.
cost each year.
Okay.
So it's $500,000 each year for 5 years.
And so that's your testimony, is you want all of that banked now, and as opposed to coming in a couple of years and asking for a, $0.25.
Correct. Because in the cost of the program is only going to increase, and the gap between what it costs to run the program and what we will get at 1.4% will continue to widen.
okay.
So if we come in a year, 2 years, 3 years, we're not going to ask for 0.1%. We're going to ask for 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.4%
That would
increase,
get very
which, again, thinking about the long-term burden on employers, that's a shock to the system for them. Where our current math says, this increase of 0.1% could equal somewhere between $8 increase to $40 increase.
Okay, I think we can assume that this has been through 2 budget committees, and that and this is what they do, have approved your budget. And what your budget says, you say, leave out that bottom line, because that's committed, or most of it is, that it costs 2.8. Premiums have gone down and are slated to go down again, so your 1.4 on the premium as a fee or surcharge is not bringing in enough, and your projections are this year that you will not have enough to cover your costs. You can obviously take it out of that balance, but that will also deplete your ability to do the modernization and to have a reserve.
Yes, and again, my argument is certainly at 1.4%, we can cover the cost of the program, and there is enough money in the fund to pay for any deficit that is there. I think when we're looking at needing to fund modernization, especially over a 5-year period, and we're wanting to make sure we've got a rate that helps sustain the program, what we're trying to avoid is having to come back next year and ask for another 10% and then another 10% the year after, or waiting 3 years and then having to come in and ask for a significant increase 3 years down the line.
Having been here when we had to do that, that was in the unemployment fund, when we didn't go up on rates, but we did go up on benefits, and then unemployment went up. It was very painful in this committee to hear from businesses that hadn't had an increase in years, but when you do something like a 10% increase in 1 year, especially during an economic downturn, I'm pretty sure we put at least a florist in Rutland out of business. But it was painful, and yeah, anybody that rents property knows it's better to do 1% a year than wait 10 years and do.
And I think
that's the argument I'm hearing you make.
If you could,
Yeah.
could I?
Yeah.
So I guess, Commissioner, the frustrating thing is we had these questions yesterday and you came in today, which is great. You presumably knew we had these questions. I've asked multiple times for a budget. You must have one because you went through 2 budget committees. we're the committee that approves rate increases, and you haven't provided a budget. All we have is the thing from JFO, and what that shows is you have plenty of money and don't really need an increase. So I'm struggling to really understand. I've heard you talk in circles here about the numbers, but I haven't seen anything on paper yet, and that's frustrating to me.
So-
But wait, I also, you did the special assessment in 2014, 2015, which now is 7 years ago. Yes, there was a pandemic, but even before the pandemic, that was 5 years that you held on to money from a special assessment and didn't do the modernization program for which you took that special assessment. So I'm having a hard time understanding why you're holding on to this much cash and why you can't provide us a budget.
So I'll start in the back. One, you keep saying you, I was not here then.
Well, you're in the hot seat today,
But
Commissioner. It's your department.
I will share that it's all about priorities. And Senator Cummings will probably remember this. There were many times, actually, this modernization for workers' comp has been slated for the past 10 years or more, and has been involved for many years based on priority of other more critical projects like unemployment insurance. So we have run into multiple situations where either a funding resource or other resources were allocated to more critical projects across state government. So the project itself, well, it was paid for out of assessment in 2014 and 2015. There was a collective understanding both in this building and in the administration that this project would be on hold until there were resources available to complete the project. So
There are resources in the fund.
No,
not people resources.
people resources.
So money doesn't buy everything. And so what we do run into, and we have run into, is that there's a number of department staff, there's a number of ADS staff, and those staffs are limited. So when we actually kicked off this project in earnest, I would say probably in 2019, and it was at the fighting of the department to say, we need to get this project moving. The system currently is not going to be sustainable for the long term, but we have needed to push that each and every year because there are other more critical projects that come up, like unemployment insurance or Department of Motor Vehicles, or others that have taken the top priority slot.
Done some stuff in the childcare realm and redoing theirs.
So I'm happy to provide you what we provided in the budget to your other question, but I mean, we've already provided our budget documents to both the Senate and the House. And so we can certainly provide those again. If you're wanting a more detailed accounting, that's going to take longer than.
All I wanted was a table that explains what you attempted to explain in verbally. You know, we have this table, sorry, Senator Pearson.
So I
This
have
table
provided that
right-
information to the chair and the vice chair of the committee.
Not the entire committee.
To the chair and the vice chair of the committee.
Yeah, well, there are 7 members on this committee, so if you want 7 votes, you should probably
Okay.
provide it to everyone.
I think at this point, though, their budget has been approved and voted. Have always with the increases. And this is supposed to be our last day meeting, so, and I've had trouble getting a quorum in here today, so I'm gonna try and get this moving along so that we can hopefully finish up our work for the year. So committee, any more questions at this point? And I think if we ask, we could go across the hall and get a budget document. It's included in that 3-inch thick, and it will be included. I'm trying to find.
I could even.
I did get some emails today, but I didn't realize I should have sent them to the committee, so I can get those out. Let me find them, and I can send them over to, I can send them.
Do you have them, Madam Chair, or would you like this?
I've got, if you have them right there, it would probably be faster if you sent them. I've got one.
I can send them, which has the chain attached to it.
Yes, that would be helpful. That's not the one with the chain. Everybody got that now?
It takes a little while.
Are there any more questions at this point?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the vice chair is perfectly happy with the questions asked by Senators Hardy and Pearson. Is eager to hear the answers.
I think that is what's here. So we are now running behind.
Well, we can come back to this after, since, I don't know, did you just send it to all of us?
I'm still putting in the emails, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay, why don't you send it to Faith and she can do it with a click of a button. All right. And if Faith gets those out to us, then we can take a look. And we'll go on to the next one, which is H244. And it is Katie, I think, is Katie around? And
Katie is about to join us.
okay, and we can get through that, I hope, quickly. And then go back, and if we have to cancel something, it will be the gubernatorial appointments, since they didn't get them to us until this week. So we will go on there. We got two bills given to us today.
You want, I got one of my appointees called me back, the other was not. Well, that was what I thought.
Okay. And who else was doing it? I've got,
I had two appointments.
you've got two. Okay, I've got four.
Yeah, and one thing I would help with that phone numbers for these folks. I don't.
Faith sent them to us.
Did she? Okay, that was, all right, good. Then I'll do mine tonight.
Okay. So we could do two today, and we're waiting for,
I can only do one since I haven't heard from this.
that's right. All right, we can only do one.
I left her, you know.
It won't be the first time I hang over her. So I'm not seeing, and have anybody gotten the emails yet?
Yes, oh, well, no, we got something from David.
Yes, no, that was earlier.
They did go through, so let me know if you did.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
emails went slow.
Here, it's the second email down.
One of these labor workers' comp budget materials.
Just came in at 2:07.
When do we expect the IT project to be done?
13 months.
I don't have anything. It's, this is from.
Approximately, we anticipate it'll be all done roughly 5 years. We're in the initial, we've awarded two initial contracts, one to Company that's going to take paper records and convert them to digital records. Another company, All Star, which is going to permanently archive all workers' comp records on a digital on-base database. And those contracts have been awarded. We're just in the initial stages now of meeting with the vendors and doing requirements and working closely with ADS and the vendors to figure out all the processes for that, but it is underway.
5 years.
Okay.
The nice part, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dirk, but the hope is that it's somewhat iterative. So there are different parts and components coming online. So the digitization of the massive amount of workers' comp records we have a vendor on board to help us move towards digitizing all our paper records. So we don't have to wait till the end of the 5 years to actualize the value of the project that's on.
Okay, committee.
I was wondering if Senator Brock would move the Scott administration's fee increase, workers' comp. Sorry.
Okay,
Punching
all we're
this
going
idea.
to get. I need a motion. No.
Madam Chair, I would move we approve H 559.
Thank you. Senator Pearson has moved that we approve H 559 as presented. Any further discussion?
Only if this is as presented to
It's-
the House.
It is an
As it-
H bill, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's an amendment, it's just in that one page.
Right, it was on the world shortest bills.
Senator Person will move to concur with the House.
Well, this is,
Move to approve H 559.
don't ask me how I got here this way, all right. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Nope.
I'm calling that one 4-1.
Madam Chair,
Two.
I'm going to say no.
You're gonna say no. So it's
322.
3-2-2. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And well, I've got to get someone to, I guess I can do this. Let's go. All right, H244. It still says strengthening primary and family care here, Katie, but Faith got the title of S, and it's not S244, it's H.
It isn't that.
And this is the dead body one, right?
That's the Untitled Chapter.
How did you get this one?
It's entitled 18, cemeteries, autopsies.
Okay, so tell us what this bill does.
Sure. With the Office of Legislative Counsel. So this is a long bill. Let me just give you the highlights and then I'll sort of direct you to where I think you're most interested. So this authorizes the use of natural organic reduction, which is accelerated composting of human bodies in a closed container. And what this bill does is it creates parity between personnel and operators that are doing cremation and facilities and personnel that might be doing natural organic reduction in the future in terms of the rights they have in terms of collecting fees and entering into contracts, and also their rights in terms of, or their responsibilities in terms of getting a license, in terms of paying the licensure fee and having personnel. So that is sort of the big picture of what the bill does. Section to section, you'll see that there aren't a lot of changes that make this happen. One change is that OPR requested that the term disposition facility be used for both facilities where natural organic reduction occurs and facilities where cremation occurs, in order to have sort of one licensure type, and then there'd be the same fee for both. So that is one change you'll see in the bill, that there's that disposition facility instead of crematorium or crematory establishment. And then there are changes like using permanent disposition instead of cremation and burial to have kind of a broader term to capture the many types of ways that disposition occurs. So in terms of where I think you will be most interested, I will direct your attention to section 25. This is an existing section that has to do with fees.
Okay.
You know what
page?
I think I'm not operating from the
It's
same.
not operating for the same.
Yeah, it's section 25. It's my page 33, but I didn't line up quite right with the folks in Senate Economic Development.
I'm still on 14, so. 22. You said this was 25?
Section 25.
Section 25, okay, yes, all right.
So this lists fees that are in Title 26. You'll notice that the fees themselves do not change, but the titles do. So instead of a crematory establishment, now it's disposition facility to capture both NOR and cremation facilities. And this takes effect when these word change, these terminology changes take effect when the bill takes effect, which is January 1 of 23.
So we're not changing the fee, just the name.
Yes, but it's slightly more complicated than that. If you
Okay.
turn to section 27, you'll notice there's another fee structure, and that this takes effect as of June 1st, 23. Again, there are no changes to the actual fee here, but there are the terminology changes. So
Okay, this is a list of under how much, but a list of, all right. So again, in that section, we're just changing the name. The fee is still the same.
right, and so this section itself was passed in 2018 and hasn't taken effect yet. It takes effect, as you'll note, June 1, 23. So we're sort of preemptively amending what will take effect so that it comports with all the changes made in the bill in terms of terminology.
Wait, this whole entire list has not taken effect yet?
No, and I can,
But they're increasing.
so I had to reach out to our GovOps attorney who was working in 2018, Betsy Young, to figure out what was happening here, especially because June 30th or June 1st is sort of a unusual date for us to
Yeah.
have these things take effect. So in 2018, Act 144, it was the 2018 OPR bill, which converted the funeral services profession from a board model to an advisor model. Usually when that happens, the board model fees, which are normally higher and codified in Title 26, get lowered and moved to where the advisor model fees live in Title 3. However, in this case, the funeral profession was running at such a high deficit that OPR wanted to maintain the higher fees in Title 26 and not have the lower Title 3 fees take effect until June 1st, 23. So that's how we have these two different sections, and
So
one
we kept up the old higher fees when it was the board of funeral directors. Yeah,
But we made it more efficient to deal with it.
right, but they were running such a deficit, they wanted to keep the high fees to pay off the deficit. Okay,
So this bill in front of us has zero change to money.
yes.
Zero change just the name.
I should report it.
I'm glad.
Okay. Other questions, committee? If not,
I will move this one.
Senator Hardy has moved approval.
And this, did our committee didn't make any changes, just so it's just concurring with the House, basically?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, to H 244, correct? All right. And I don't have the title, because let me check online. Let's see.
An act relating to authorizing the natural organic reduction of human remains.
Okay.
Yeah.
A natural,
The natural organic reduction of human
Right.
remains.
And it's here. It is posted correctly. Okay. Senator Hardy has moved approval as presented. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed say no. Okay, that I am seeing is 502, right?
I'm good with that one, Randy?
Hang on, Amy. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you,
Nice to see
Katie.
everyone.
And then we have,
Senator, this is Faith. Who's the reporter on that?
Senator Hardy, no. Senator Pearson, I think, said he reported.
We're here to serve you, Madam Chair.
That's right.
Whoever you want, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I
And
think we should make Senator Sirotkin report it, since he's the one that dumped it on us today.
He knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
Most certainly does.
Here's where all the bodies are composted.
Can we say Senator Sirotkin? We
did
did.
I hear Senator Stewart?
No, Senator Pearson. We did that once to Peter Welch when he wasn't here. But I voted against it. And so I couldn't report it. Nobody else wanted to, and it was his idea.
That seems fair.
It had something to do with nuclear power, and Rod Gander got up out of what turned out to be his deathbed and came up here to vote against it. He said, well, I'm not gonna do that if I'm gonna be the only one. And I said, well, if you come, I'll vote with you. But,
Good times.
it was good times, yeah. We hid him in the infirmary.
We
Look at this.
Senator Hardy. if you
Perfect
concur with
timing,
that.
you have us.
Yeah, we just approved the bill.
We approve the bill.
We approved the bill, and we've got one more,
We've got one where we didn't change anything.
yeah,
Okay.
So no amendments.
no amendments.
Yeah, in fact, we have two, both
We've
the
got
ones we
two.
voted out.
We
with
need
no
H 244, and that, I believe, is right here.
Should I wait for it or?
Yeah,
There it
we're
is.
just gonna do it.
Just make sure the vote count of that one is correct.
Well, on this one, that, as a first vote, yeah.
Three runs.
You sent it to us an hour ago, and there it is, and that was,
4-0.
no, that's out of the house. Ours was 502.
On the premature,
How can we get 2-2-2 on a 7-member committee?
322.
Okay, that's better. Somebody else's report.
That's why you're the auditor.
All right,
Listen.
Always put this to the test.
okay. Run a roll, we got a bunch of gubernatorial
Right.
appointments. Okay, so who can we do for?
We can do Mark Foley, Madam Chair. Mark
Okay.
Foley Jr. of Rutland, appointed to the Vermont Municipal Bond Bank. By all accounts, a bang-up guy in the community. Had a lovely chat with him. And he assured me he is kept out of trouble and is honored to be taking the position.
Okay. Further discussion? If not, I take it that was a motion to approve.
I would move that we approve the
Right,
appointment of Mark
yeah.
Foley Jr.
Okay,
Now what do I do with this?
you just take it up.
You have to put the vote
First
on
we
it
have to
and
vote.
sign it.
Okay, but these are all going on the mass
Yeah.
voting thing. Okay, so further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. I'm hearing that as 502. Okay, and we don't have any other ones, right?
No, I do feel like I should wait for a call back.
Yeah,
I just need to confirm which appointments are mine. I believe they're the two that are mine, education and health buildings, but I'm not sure of that.
No, you're Debbie Winters and
Okay.
Ed Got.
Okay, fine.
Okay, and you're
Thank you.
doing.
Go ahead, tell me But you mentioned that their telephone numbers are not telephone numbers. I mean,
Faith would have the telephone numbers.
Yeah, Faith, if you have telephone numbers,
It's all in an email. I'll resend it to you.
oh, I see, it's down here, it's in the fine print, little box.
Yes, that's it.
I just didn't see that, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we now have 20 minutes, I think.
Oh my gosh.
We have. are we
Senator
on-
Cummings?
We are on, no, at 3:30, we're doing a caucus as a whole, I think, for the budget
And are
agreement.
we voting on that today? The budget?
The budget
Don't they-
agreement, I
don't they run
assume
this stuff
so.
by? It's on notice, so.
We have a 3:00 committee of
It's just
conference.
important that has to.
Yes, Faith, we're still live, yes.
You're still live. S33, the documents I sent you, but we got a long email from Abby Sherman, and you all may want to look at that before Rebecca Wasserman shows up.
Okay,
All right.
so we can read that and we'll be back at 2:45.
Ending live stream now.
This room's gotta be cleaned out and cleaned up by 3:00, all right.
Which, oh, the TIC clarification changes?